All right, we're live
Hey,
at the Luke
ooh.
and Brett show. I think, Luke, we're on episode number 46. And we're coming a little bit late today because I typically go into an office to do these. Not all the time. Sometimes I do it from an airport, but when I'm not traveling, I'm trying to use an office. And I get to the parking lot. I kid you not, Luke. Drop my kids off at school. I get to the parking lot. I grab my bag because I'm going to walk in and go get set up. And I'm like, this is light. And so I unzip it and I'm
Wait.
like, I forgot my computer. So I'm coming live from my spare bedroom that I made into a makeshift podcast studio. But it actually turns out pretty well because it has that white background.
Yeah, it's quality right out the gate.
Quality right out of the gate. And so one of the things that I wanted to share about now, I wanted to talk to you about artificial intelligence and using it to create executive summaries. But I
Okay.
want to pause on that because I was this morning, and I think this is why I just didn't take my computer and put it into the bag because, like
Hmm.
everyone, I think everyone works. Uh, when my kids go to bed, I tend to go and finish out some other projects. I I,
Right.
I I get a lot of time in the morning to get things done, but I also work things after they go to bed. But this morning, my son has a spelling test today, and he's in second grade,
Yeah.
and they're doing contractions.
Okay.
I'm, we've, she'd, and he's not getting them right. He's missing some, and so as I'm talking to him, I always say that perfect practice makes perfect. Not practice makes perfect. Perfect practice
Hmm.
makes perfect. Perfect. And if you want to get good at anything, you have to practice. And I've had this saying with my kids is, how do you get good at anything? And they're like, practice. So I'm like, my son's, Jacob. I'm like, Jacob, I'm like, here's how you get good. I said, you have to take the words that you're having problems with, and you just got to take the time and write them 100 times.
Mm.
Dad, I'm not going to write them 100 times. I'm like, I understand that, but do you want to have a chance of getting it wrong on your test, or do you want to take 5 or 10 minutes to make sure that you don't get it wrong? And he goes, I don't want to do either. I'm like, I'm like, well, buddy, you can't have one or the other. And I'm sharing that story because when we start talking about real estate agents and we start talking about mortgage professionals, the average sales price in Orange County, it went over $1 million there for a little bit, or the median sales price, it went over $1 million for a little bit. I think it's back into the mid 900s. Still, a pretty high
Yeah.
sales price. And when I start looking at the average per person production, most agents in where I live in Orange County, California, because you lived here a long
Hmm.
time, they don't do more than 4 or 5 transactions a year. And so I started thinking, I'm like, if you're not practicing and if you're not doing the best that you can, the practice is going to happen. But what you're doing is you're practicing on a live client.
Right.
If the median number of per person production is like 4 or 5 transactions a year, so not even one every other month,
Right.
then what you're really doing is taking those options and you're giving yourself a disadvantage to not get that listing.
So I
And
have.
typically, you won't even know that you got the listing because most people will do a research on you before you actually get there. So you've lost the listing before you even actually got there. You don't even know it.
Right. So I have a an interesting observation around this that I've done from, or that I've gleaned from working with a lot of people throughout the country, and it is one that is most people, and this is, I don't have like statistical data to back this up, but so this is just kind of my takeaway. But depending upon what your average sales price is, will determine how many monthly units you do in order to maintain the lifestyle that you're comfortable with. So if you
I
have
agree with that.
somebody in like Iowa where they're $150,000, it's shocking that they will do 7 to 8 transactions a month versus somebody in Southern California that might only do one every other month.
I agree with that point 100%. And what I call that is the glass ceiling.
Okay.
And I believe that glass ceiling is $100,000 ish.
Right.
Because when I start looking at production from an agent perspective, that's where the median hits around that. Now, some might do 125 or
Right.
130 or ish. Some might do 90 or ish, but the number of units that they do typically lines up with where they're at. That first quartile of agent, that's how we gauge things. You take your production amount, your gross
Mm-hmm.
commission income, you divide that in half. Well, first of all, you take out the new people less than 12 months
Right.
into the business, and then you divide that in half, and then you divide those halves in halves, and that gives you quartiles. And what you find is only, gosh, I can't remember the exact numbers, but what you'll find is that only 2 or 3% are earning at that really, really high level. And then another like 8% learn at that second quartile
Right.
level. And then the rest is, I think maybe I'll have to get the numbers, but basically what it comes down to is that the top 20% do 75% of the business. Now,
Wait,
what's
are you
interesting,
saying like 80/20?
no, see, that's the fallacy because we break things up into
Yeah, yeah.
quartiles. So you can't do that. So, 1, 2, 3, I can see what percentages
Yeah.
of the agents fit within those top three quartiles. So that would be the, whatever agents those are. And that is about 20% of the agents. I
Right.
think it's actually more like 18%.
Just
18% are
busting
in
your
quartile
chops.
1, 2, and 3. Uh, and then like 82% or like 80, at least 25% is in that fourth quartile.
Right.
And that's where you're seeing within the National Association of Realtor kind of guidelines, that's where most of the median sales price comes up. I think I just got the new data. So I think it's 57,000 is what the average agent makes across the nation. So when we start talking about a glass ceiling in that six-figure
Yeah.
range, really what we're talking about is 2xing the normal. And you can see why that kind of works out that way. So you and I are on the same page with that for sure.
Right. It's interesting to see that the average income kind of aligns with like the average US income um, for an individual.
And you're working so many more hours.
Right.
Like anyone who thinks that if you get into real estate and all you do is just, they're watching too much of HDTV or Bravo when they think that the job or loan officer, for those of you that are watching, they're in the mortgage side, that they think that it's a 9 to 5 job. You don't work weekends. You have every holiday off. You have every birthday off. You have every, um, that doesn't happen. Really,
Right.
that doesn't happen for me.
Nights, weekends, holidays.
Yeah. Okay, so that's something I just wanted to share. I want to parlay into another conversation that I had just yesterday, and we
Hmm.
were talking about executive summaries.
Okay.
And typically, traditionally, what you would do if you wanted to take minutes or notes onto a meeting, you would actually have an administrative person on that call, kind of a silent person there taking notes.
Hmm.
And I had a conversation with a person yesterday. I'm like, well, because things are being recorded anyways.
Yes.
And so I said, well, why don't you just take the transcript of that and use artificial intelligence to evaluate the transcript and create an executive summary and instruct it to give the high level bullet points for each of the subject
Hmm.
matters that they came up with. And it was everybody, I feel at this point, unless you've been living under a rock, understands that there is artificial intelligence that's at play right now.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that even though people understand and they know that it's in the market, they're not really utilizing it because my 5 minute conversation yesterday, because I kind of gave a demo of what
Hmm.
you and I do when it comes to these podcasts, is we took that and I demoed it and was able to show how within 5 minutes that you create. Well, you have an hour for the meeting. Let's say 30-minute meeting,
Right.
and then you have so there's 30 minutes of notes there. So we took that, and number one, you don't have to be there anymore. You can just actually take those transcripts, use AI as a tool, because to your
Hmm.
point, it's not AI that's going to replace the jobs. It's the person using AI, upskilling
Right.
themselves, who are going to take the jobs. And it just makes that much more time for productivity.
Yeah. So, it's kind of shocking that they're not using it. I do, and so I use Fireflies and also Fat Home. You just invite them to your Zoom meetings they show up like as a guest, and they will do all of it for you without having to do anything. So like after the meeting, it ends, it'll give you the full summary, the step by step to do. It'll even notate who's going to be responsible for what, and a full transcript of everything after the fact.
So when you say fat
So
home, is that FATHOME?
I believe so. Um, you can
Because
Google
I
and
found
then
Fireflies AI. So let me kind of go and just share what I'm seeing here. So I see
I want to say
this:
yes, Fireflies.
automate your meeting notes. Like, wow,
This one's really great. I love this one. I personally use this one, but I know there's another one that's quite productive
it's
or
free
quite
forever
popular
for
too.
for free for 800 minutes of storage, or you pay
This is
10
not a
bucks a
paid
month.
promotion, but
Yeah, I don't ever do freeware.
this is not a paid promotion, but maybe
No,
I'll
this is
sign up
not a
for the
paid for
affiliate lead.
promotion. Yeah, this is something that you use.
Not a planned.
So, I mean, I'm gonna have to check it out.
But check this out. Like if I mean just exactly what you're talking about, like this does all of that. I don't know what your uh compliance and safety protocols are, but um I love it. Like when I'll do some like higher level consulting calls and stuff, like pay like one offs, like one on ones, and we'll use that, and that will be like the roadmap of that whole conversation because I'm probably the worst person when it comes to like admin and that type of stuff. So it's like everything's there, ready to go, ready to rock, and it's very accurate
So,
and
so it takes the meeting notes, but then does it take it and then, or can you configure it to whereas once the meeting's done, it takes that transcripts and just creates you an executive level of summary?
it'll do a full play by play bullet point summary. It'll do like an action item summary. It will say like so and so is responsible for this, and that. And it is probably 95% spot on.
Wow, that's super cool. And what's interesting about artificial intelligence is that it's been about a year now since ChatGPT first debuted, and the
Yep.
amount that it has gotten. I mean, they're on ChatGPT 4. It came out with ChatGPT, I think, 1. I mean, or did it just come out with
Right.
ChatGPT? Maybe it's one and the same, but it's interesting to see how fast this development is going. Much
Right.
more fast than when we saw the adoption of, at least my recollection, that it doesn't seem that the internet caught on so fast. And so as we continue to get more and more advanced, these different technologies, they're just, God, they're just evolving at a very rapid rate.
Yeah. It's pretty exciting. Sometimes it's like even for somebody like myself who I intentionally try to spend a certain amount of time exploring new stuff and learning and educating myself. It's still drinking from a fire hose because there's new stuff coming out every single day, new companies, new just you name it, and then with the with the being able to use AI to create stuff where you no longer need to be able to like know how to code, it takes somebody with just natural language speaking stuff to be able to, that now has the capability of like creating a software or a program or something. So it's you know the the capacity to be able to expand and grow that much quicker is just it's mind boggling.
The way that I agree with that, how you said that the a person who doesn't have those technical skills can actually go ahead and do some development. What's interesting with that is when I was talking to this person who I was helping out, I was saying, look, this is when you're doing something like this, what you're really doing is you have to give it very clear instructions, what we call prompts, right? AI is called prompts. You have to give very specific instructions of what you want. No different than being very clear and talking to a real live human that had to do that task beforehand. Because
Right.
what we've really done is it's not new to have somebody record a video, take a transcript of it. Used to be that they actually had to have a transcriber there, but now,
Right.
I mean, talk about something that interrupted an industry. I don't know how big the transcription industry was, but I'm pretty sure that it's pretty much smaller than what it used to be based on the advances in technology. So there was a person doing
Right.
that. Then there was a person who's actually reading through that, through the transcriptions, and then organizing and actually creating a minutes report or an executive summary
Right.
report. Whereas with the advances of AI, that has literally just taken it. You and I are doing this right now. It's recording. Once this is done recording, the system is automatically going to send it to Descript, which is going to transcribe it. Descript itself will actually create the content and the chapters and bullets of everything that we're doing. And then my assistant, who will then actually go ahead and create an executive summary and file it with the notes. All done within, look, the longest portion of that was you and I talking here.
Right.
It's going to take less time to do all of those steps that we just talked about than the 20 or 25 minutes that you and I are talking right now. And that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Super awesome. It
And
really is pretty
so,
cool.
so tying this into both real estate and mortgages, probably more specifically for real estate, is, what do you know about a neighborhood? If you're going to talk about a neighborhood, find out the five, three, four, or five things that you really, really like about this neighborhood that really thinks
Right.
great. And you can take those and have AI write an actual neighborhood description of the property. You can do or of the neighborhood. You can do the same thing. Take the three to five features of a property.
Mm-hmm.
It has 5 bedrooms. It has 3 baths. It has a, a remodeled kitchen. Granite
Right.
countertops. And you take that into it and you say, "Hey AI, write me a inspirational description of this neighborhood and property. It needs to be about 1,000 words. And by the way, write it for a fifth grade level."
Right.
And it will happen. And you'll have
Yep.
that, and you'll have that first copy. Now, what I do after that, and I think you do the same thing, I take what it is, I put it in Grammarly, and then now I edit it. So what it's done is it creates the first draft for me. It ghost writes the first draft for me, but then I go through and I change what I don't like and I add in what I do like, but it gives me that first draft. It's done 80% of the work. And that 80% of the work is typically the most time consuming of the work.
Right. Did I ever tell you about Hemingway?
No, you and I have
Hemingway,
never talked. I'm assuming you're talking about the author. And
yeah, but this is like so to talk about like your like reading level, like the to get it down to a grade level specific. So Hemingway is like I mean, you can almost kind of think about it like a Grammarly, but it will literally give you, the grade level that you're rewriting stuff in and change it. So I used to do it a lot for like ad copy and just regular copy itself, but take whatever you want, plug it in there, and it will help. refine what you're writing down to a specific grade level. Typically, I found like third grade converts the highest.
So really,
Yes.
so I got to tell you,
So even lower than you might be thinking.
there
So
was
fifth
that.
grade, yes. Third grade, ding, 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 ding.
We're going in the right direction.
We're just going down, 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 down.
Do you remember that sitcom, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader, or the game show?
Yeah, totally.
Dude, I have a sixth grader, and we would help with fifth grade. And that show, I'm like, that's not right. No way. And yeah, it is. Like, there are things that we learned in fifth grade that we've completely flat out forgotten.
Right. Those kids are smart.
So, kind of to switch gears, one of the things that my sister-in-laws are always notorious for getting Christmas presents to the kids, um, without any insight into our opinions. And so, number one, they got skateboards.
Okay.
That's cool. I think skateboards are cool, but I had to go get all the safety equipment. But what I wanted to share with you is they got the Oculus,
Okay.
and
Cool.
it's actually really cool. But then, of course, my mind starts going on. My brother-in-law is a uh, uh, animator. He used to work for Disney. He's done a lot of Disney films. Worked on the Avengers. Worked on all of that
Cool.
stuff. But now he's in the 3D, and he's on this project that's developing for the next Apple. The Apple eyewear.
Yeah.
And Apple's going to be, it's not going to be 360 degrees. It's going to be 180 degrees. So you're going to be
Okay.
standing there and you're going to be able to see everything from, you can't see my arms, but you're going to be able to see everything from you forward, looking up and looking down, and so on and so forth. But the cool thing with that, and what I was really kind of thinking about, is, do you remember when the flat screen TV came out? That was the first
Yeah.
time it came out in CES, and it was like this thick, but it was a
Right.
flat screen TV because the other ones were tube and such, and it was like $20,000. And then
Right.
now you can, and it was the biggest I think they had was like a 20-inch TV. Who's going to buy a 20-inch TV? And now I was just at Costco. You can get like an 80-inch TV that's like this thin, and it's like, I don't know, like $900, something like
Right.
that. So we're talking about the advancements of technology. Can you imagine 10 years from down the road, we're going to have eyeglasses, dude. We're going to have eyeglasses that we're going to put on, and it's going to
Right.
be augmented reality, and no more looking at our phone for directions. We're literally probably going to be living with an Iron Man mask on. No, the Iron Man glasses,
Right.
from that he always wears, and he's like, Friday, what am I looking at? And he
Yep.
sees everything. I
Totally.
believe that the first step to innovation is science fiction. And then science fiction is what drives science fact. Ooh, that was
Okay.
good. That was good.
That was good. Mark that.
Where are we at? We're at the timestamp is 23 minutes.
I think we're good.
But no,
That's,
I think the Apple headsets. God, I can't remember, but I think they're a few $1,000s right now, and they're just going to bring that to market. Small
yeah.
portion are going to purchase that, and then they're just going to drive development. No different than what they did with the iPhone.
Right.
And sooner or later, they're going to make things so small that thinking about the cell phone, when my first cell phone was like this big, and remember the StarTAC
Well,
telephone, the Motorola StarTAC? It flipped open like a
yes.
Kirk communicator. That was
I
like
was
my
more of a
favorite phone.
Razor.
Razors were good.
Razor was the
God, they had
was
cool
my.
names back then. The
I know,
StarTAC,
right?
the Razor.
Razor.
Now all we get is like, what are you on? The iPhone 15,
The Nokia brick. Man, that
Nokia
was
brick.
the workhorse.
It really was a
What was
workhorse.
that? I remember it was like I went to go visit my dad, and this is probably like 2012, and he still had his like Nokia. I'm like, what are you doing?
This belongs in a
He's
museum.
like, it still works. I was like, yeah, no, I understand that. Like, no wonder you don't text.
That's funny. All right, so we are at 25 minutes. Look, we went over a lot of stuff on here. I think this was a pretty good session. I'm now going to let the system do what it's going to do and create the whole summary and such. I'm sure you're going to do the same thing. But any parting words to our people watching?
Let's get it.
Let's get it. See you guys next week.
Rock and roll.